What is it with Star Wars games and being completely cursed? The amount of cancelled Star Wars games, delayed Star Wars games over the years have been absolutely insane, and it's not getting better either. I mean, this problem has been around since the beginning of Star Wars games, and just to be clear, other games get cancelled as well. It's not just a Star Wars thing, but it does feel like Star Wars games have had it way worse than other franchises, and I'm not really sure why. And now recently one of the newest Star Wars games just got delayed indefinitely, so I thought we'd take a brief look at the history of cancelled Star Wars games and the recent news as well. But before we get into that, just a quick shout out to my sponsor Elgato, who creates some really smart gear for your setup. I moved this week and putting up their equipment like lights, microphones, camera stands and all that kind of stuff took minutes. It's so incredibly easy and saves a lot of space compared to traditional equipment. So if you're interested in reading more about what I use in my setup, make sure to follow that link in the description below. But now let's talk a little bit about the sad and cursed history of Star Wars games. I can't really go over all cancelled Star Wars games. Yes, it's that bad. But I thought we'd start off back with probably one of the most famous cancelled Star Wars games, Star Wars Battlefront 3. Battlefront 1 came out in 2004, Battlefront 2 in 2005, very short in between, but a huge success nevertheless. So Free Radical set out to do Battlefront 3 in 2006, and it was gonna be a huge game, more ambitious than Battlefront 2, way bigger, cooler features. But with the transition to new consoles and a too big scope of Free Radical, the development was very troubled. They kept missing deadlines, they had more and more issues, management issues, and although LucasArts pushed the deadline over and over and over, eventually they realized this is simply not feasible and Free Radical cannot pull this through. So in 2008 the game was cancelled. And it's almost like the third installment is some type of curse. I mean, KOTOR 3 cancelled, Force Unleashed 3 cancelled, Star Wars Jedi Knight 3 cancelled, and also a Republic Commando sequel. Not a lot is known about these particular projects, which is why I'm not going to talk about them too much, other than the fact that they were at least in planning stages. A third installment of all these franchises had a plan and an idea, but never made it to the public. Moving a few years in the future, we have a game called Battle of the Sith Lords, a game which I'm very sad we never got, developed by Red Fly. It was going to be a game about Darth Maul that would depict his story before Episode 1, and it would even include parts of Plagueis' death and the rise of Palpatine, and it would be an M-rated game with a lot of violence, and apparently back then LucasArts wasn't very involved with the games that other studios were making, so Red Fly kept asking them, what are we gonna do with Maul? And they're like, we don't know, just do whatever you want. So they focused a lot on the gameplay initially, but due to the poor communication from both parts, the game ended up being cancelled in 2011. But a few years later, after the Disney acquisition and EA Star Wars license, Red Fly actually made an updated demo of this game that they could show to like EA and Disney to hope that they would pick it up and continue work on it, but unfortunately that never happened either. But now that the Star Wars license has opened up, I'm still really hoping we get to see this Darth Maul game. And another game that I was very sad to see cancelled was Star Wars First Assault, basically an FPS shooter even more gritty than Battlefront that would be more similar to like Battlefield and Call of Duty. Not a lot of details are known about this game other than the fact that it would basically be the Battlefield and Call of Duty of Star Wars, although I kind of already thought Battlefront did that, but I think it would be a little bit more hardcore, a little bit more gritty. But after that we of course get to one of the saddest cancels, the last cancel I think before the acquisition by Disney, which is Star Wars 1313, a bounty hunter game where you would have been following Boba Fett in the underworld of Coruscant. The game was actually revealed in 2012 with a trailer, so a lot of these other cancelled games never had their official reveals, but it's all leaks and behind the scenes stuff, and usually something that's been shown after the game has been cancelled. But Star Wars 1313 had a full reveal in 2012, and the game looked good and sounded really good from people who worked on it. But after Disney's acquisition of Star Wars, they shut down LucasArts, laid off all the staff and cancelled the project. But according to Lucasfilm, the game had development issues prior to Disney's acquisition, but nevertheless I'm pretty sure they could have made it work if they actually wanted to. And although there's been more cancelled projects, those were the big ones, but now we move over to the EA Star Wars era that started in 2013, which has had its fair share of cancelled projects. Starting off with, of course, Visceral Games, who actually had a game called Project Yuma, which would be a pirate-themed game in Star Wars in the works, but this was cancelled pretty early to be replaced by Project Ragtag, which was Amy Hennig's Star Wars game, and this was also revealed in 2016, so another publicly cancelled Star Wars game. It would be set between episode 4 and 5, follow the scoundrel Dodger with his crew in the criminal underworld. A lot of cool, unique abilities and gadgets were planned, including like a force-sensitive criminal that was part of the gang using his former Jedi abilities to cheat and steal. And there's actually a full report on what this game would have been from making Star Wars that you can read if you want to, but a lot of development issues and sending people over to work on Battlefront 2 and Amy Hennig not working very well with the EA higher-ups basically caused the entire studio to shut down in 2017. And then the next project was Project Orca. They kept the scoundrel theme of Ragtag and wanted to reuse the assets, but instead make an open world game where you can visit multiple planets. But in 2019 news came out that this was also cancelled. However, the entire project and these assets has allegedly been picked up by Amy Hennig's new studio, Skydance New Media. This was announced, I think it was this year or last year actually, that she's making a Star Wars game, but they haven't said anything publicly about what the Star Wars game is gonna be, but unofficial sources are saying that they're gonna pick up the project that they did back in 2016, 2017 and actually finally make it into a real game. And now that she's in control of the studio herself, working directly with Lucasfilm, there's hopefully a higher chance of success. And then we have another very sad cancellation, which is Project Viking, which was worked on by both Criterion and EA Vancouver, a Battlefront spin-off. Although very little is known about this, we don't really know what this would entail, if it would have been like just ground combat, just space combat, just heroes versus villains. All we know is that it would have been a Battlefront spin-off. Something I've said many times would be the most realistic way to continue the Battlefront franchise, but of course it was cancelled as well. Battlefront 3 hasn't really ever been worked on as far as I know. I think there was some very early plans over at DICE after Battlefront 2 was shut down, but DICE and EA decided to put all the focus on Battlefield instead, so the people who made Battlefront 2 great realized I'm out of here, and pretty much all of them left DICE, which is incredibly sad. And that brings us to today, when Star Wars games has entered a new era, since now everyone can practically make Star Wars games, which is great, including EA, because EA has made great games as well. Battlefront 2, Fallen Order, Squadrons and so on. But I think it's ideal that everyone can work on Star Wars games and pitch their ideas to Lucasfilm. But only a little over a year, or I guess 1.5 years since they announced that everyone can now work on Star Wars games and the licenses opened up, we've already gotten multiple delays / cancellations. I mean, first of all we had LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which was delayed I think 2 or 3 times, but it released and it was good. So delays doesn't have to be bad, cancellations are the bad thing. And then we have Star Wars Hunters, which was pushed from 2021 to 2022 and which was now recently delayed all the way until 2023. I'm not really sure what to make of that game, to be completely honest, as I've heard very mixed receptions of it. But most importantly and worst of it all, the KOTOR remake seems to have been delayed indefinitely, which could very well mean cancelled. This was a project that I thought was closest in the pipeline except for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, but recently news came out that the game had been delayed indefinitely due to the fact that they had made a demo, showed it to the higher-ups and Lucasfilm, and they simply weren't happy with the progress. They wanted to push out the game like next year, but the developers felt like they need until 2025, and I agree, take their time, make a good game. But nope, it was too slow, it wasn't feasible, so everyone was dragged off the project, and as of right now I don't really know if the project will continue or if it's gonna get completely cancelled. So the story of troubled Star Wars game development unfortunately continues. The only game I at the moment feel very confident in is Star Wars Jedi Survivor, because Respawn has proven time and time again that they can put out great games, and considering they showed a full out reveal trailer this year with a release date next year, I think that's like the only Star Wars game that I can confidently say will be released and will hopefully also be pretty good. Anyways, I would love to hear, what do you think is the worst cancellation out of all of these, and the game that you really wish we would have gotten a chance to play? If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate some feedback below. Maybe drop a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.